July 17, 2014, a Boeing 777 departs Amsterdam, 298 souls on board. Hours later, their lives will end violently, high above a war zone. This is the story of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17. That summer morning at Schiphol Airport, passengers boarded Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17. Families with children, business travelers, and world-renowned scientists. For them, it was meant to be just another journey. At 12:31 p.m., the Boeing 777 lifted off. Its destination? Kuala Lumpur. The flight would cross Europe, Ukraine, Russia, and Asia, a routine path flown by hundreds before. At cruising altitude, MH17 was just one of many flights crossing Eastern Europe that day, but far below, a conflict was unfolding. Eastern Ukraine was at war. Government forces clashed with pro-Russian separatists. Jets were shot down, transport planes destroyed. The skies grew more dangerous with every passing week. Inside MH17, the atmosphere was calm. The crew monitored instruments, unaware of the threat below. At 33,000 feet, commercial airliners were considered safe. At least that was the belief. On the ground, separatist forces operated a Book missile system. It was designed to destroy aircraft. That day, it was aimed at the skies. Radar locked onto a target. The operators believed it was a Ukrainian military plane. In reality, it was Flight MH17. At 3:23 p.m., a missile was launched. Traveling at nearly 3 times the speed of sound, it struck the Boeing 777 near the cockpit. The blast killed the pilots instantly. The aircraft tore apart in mid-air. Wreckage, belongings, and bodies rained down over farmland near Hrabave. 298 people, gone in an instant. Local villagers rushed to the fields. Fires burned among twisted metal. The world's worst fears were confirmed. There were no survivors. Shock and grief spread across the globe. At airports, families waited for loved ones who would never arrive. Leaders condemned the attack. Nations demanded answers. But the crash site lay in separatist-controlled territory. Investigators were blocked. Evidence tampered with. The truth was hidden beneath layers of war and politics. Eventually, fragments were recovered. In a Dutch hangar, investigators rebuilt the wreckage. The conclusion was undeniable. MH17 was destroyed by a Russian-made Book missile. In the Netherlands, a national day of mourning was declared. Convoys of hearses carried victims through silent crowds. A nation wept for its people. Years later, a Dutch court convicted 3 men of murder for their roles in the attack. But true justice remains elusive. Many questions are still unanswered. For aviation, MH17 changed everything. Airlines rerouted flights to avoid conflict zones. New systems were created to warn pilots of risks in the skies. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17 was more than a tragedy of war. It was 298 lives stolen in an instant. A painful reminder that innocent people too often pay the price of conflict.